with you. Flip a doujin in the bed, I'm reading manga till it's two. Tell me that you love us if I go, I'm knowing that it's true. Cause you acting all moe and vanilla in my view. So this is for them waifus, straight 2D flex in my life, fool. If you fuck with hentai, you my dude. Let the beat right out, keep it nice and smooth, yo.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Weeabooze, the anime podcast where some of the most unqualified people try to answer your anime questions. I'm Kyle.
I'm Sam.
I'm Hunter.
And there's no Jeremy tonight. It's just the three of us. What are we drinking tonight, Hunter?
We are drinking Nimbus. Okay, Nimbus is the brewing company's name. The brew is called Dirty Guerra? Dirty Guerra.
Yeah.
Dirty Guerra Blonde Ale by Nimbus Brewing Company in Arizona.
It's good. I like it.
A blonde that plays dirty in a good way.
This week's topic is what I like to call the cycle of anime. Essentially, what I'm going to get at is consumerism and how I think there may be too much anime and if that's a good or a bad thing. So let's get into what I think the cycle of anime is. It's the new season. We're all pumped about the new anime coming out. And that's actually the first stage. Like, I won't lie. At the beginning of each anime season, it's honestly one of the most exciting times, of my life. I have, physical chest pains. I get so excited having all this new animation thrown in my face. It's unbelievable
Kyle
to me.
just, can't sleep. He's just
sweating
the night before.
New anime must watch. It's so exciting to me. I can't believe it. So once that initial excitement kind of passes, we enter the second stage, which is the consuming stage. It's just taking in everything, it's where we talk to other people who are viewing it. We talk about what we hate. We talk about what we love. And of course, we ultimately get to what we try to determine is the anime of the season. What is the best? Mm-hmm. We just want more and more. And then finally is the third stage, which is the judgment period, which comes at the end of the season. We can finally say, this was great, this was garbage, this is getting a second season, so we don't have an opinion on it yet. And there's also a smaller thing that kind of takes part in that third stage, which is this emptiness, We want to fill the void. We occasionally, we get a masterpiece that just leaves us feeling empty. But my question for you is, first of all, what do you think about this cycle? And then, more importantly, is too much anime a bad thing?
Cycle was accurate. That's
Okay.
a very good way to explain the cycle of anime.
It's condensed. I mean,
Right.
There's a lot more to it, but...
I'm more interested in the second part.
Right.
Is too much anime, or is there such a thing as too much anime? Is
Sure.
the amount of anime bad?
Right.
Hard to answer. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, the amount of anime that there is one of my favorite parts about it, because with quantity, you get variety. Not always, but inevitably you get variety. And a huge variety and a huge selection of anime is awesome. That's always a good thing. But it also leads to underappreciation for anime. So when you do see something that's good, you have so many other good things to compare it to that it's almost underwhelming, and things that might normally be decent, you suddenly think aren't as good because you can get that kind of quality in a million other things. What I'll compare it to is games. When I was younger, I used to play a lot more I used to play games for a much longer amount of time. I would invest in a game because there weren't as many of them, not nearly as many. Now that anime is so accessible and there's so much of it, I don't invest nearly as much time or compassion, if that's the word. I don't invest as much of myself into what I'm watching because I know it's replaceable.
Okay. Hunter?
So I'll come at it from, I guess, a little bit of a different angle. I think that you kind of hit it for the positive, is that more variety is good. But I think the reason it could be seen negatively is that you have to wade through so much garbage to find the good stuff. I mean, I'll go with your game example. Once Steam did this green light thing where you have a bunch of indie game makers throwing games up, there's just Steam has thousands of games, and like 5% of them are worth your time, maybe. And you just have to wade through so much stuff to find what you're looking for. Like, there could be so much good stuff out there that you never find just because of the density.
That's true. And Kyle, it makes me almost feel bad for you because you're the kind of person that regardless of whether it's good or bad, you'll watch it.
True.
So I feel like as the amount of anime goes up, you're just more invested into trash.
Right, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring this up, because I wanted to question if it was just me. Do I feel like anime is going downhill because I personally choose to watch everything? You know, is that universal?
No, it's a dirty job, but someone has to do it. You're doing the people's work,
Well,
Kyle.
thank you.
Because before I watch anything, I ask you if it's worth watching, and if it wasn't for people like you, you're society's filter.
Thank you. I do kind of agree with you, Hunter. This is a topic that can get into, does good anime still even exist? You know, and we may talk about that.
Silly question. Yes, it does.
Of course
Yeah,
it does.
I completely agree. But so many people say anime is not what it used to be, which that phrase might be true, obviously. But that's people stuck in nostalgia. And nostalgia is going to be a topic we may bring up in another episode. I don't want to get too much into that right now.
Just a quick aside with that is it's the same thing with people saying that no music that's coming out right now is as good as it was in
Right.
insert decade here. And I hate those people so much.
Back when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of what the two of you said. There's a lot more to kind of get through and to sift through to find what is good.
Okay, so my question to you is, I don't know what the number is. Let's say you're watching 10 series this season that you've decided you'll keep up with. What of the percentage is like good and worth watching? Like, I assume that all 10 of them are going to be at least enjoyable to you, that you enjoy your time going through this. But what's the percentage that's like good, that you'd recommend, that you tell other people about, that you try to get somebody that wasn't into anime with this show?
I mean, let's see. Let's say hypothetically there's about 20 to 30 airing shows right now. And I'm watching all of them.
I was way off with 10.
I would say there are 3 at most really worth watching, and out of those 3, 1 may turn out to be memorable.
Does it start with an R?
No, I mean, that's all hypothetically. I'm not saying...
Okay, so any given season, you're looking
Correct.
at 20 to 30 that exist, 3 that are like above the rest, and 1 that could be a masterpiece
Could
for
be.
anime of the season.
Right. Like, the second part of my question is, do you think because of the amount of anime coming out, like those... I don't want to say masterpieces, but those outstanding anime will become less memorable?
Yes. That is the outcome of having such a high quantity.
For example, in 2015, 164 anime came out. 164 unique series. In 2000, 55 anime came out.
That's less.
That is
That
less.
is math.
Let's say you're watching anime in 2000 and you find like your favorite series. Do you feel like that series will be less memorable than your favorite series of 2015 because of the amount of content? Does that make sense?
You mean since it had to beat out 160 versus 50,
exactly, yeah.
that it's...
Well, possibly. Here's my question to you. When there is a higher selection of anime to watch from 2015 to 2000, even though if you just look at the two shows objectively from their own standpoint, they might be just as good as each other.
Right.
When you have that much of a selection, as you say in 2015, do you get a cleaner gradient where you have, ooh, amazing, and then you have almost amazing, and then all the way down? And then in 2000, you've got, ooh, amazing, shit, terrible.
No, I feel like there is no gradient. It's great, average, and bad, you know? Regardless of the quantity. There's no mid-ground in between those three categories. I feel like good is good, bad is bad, and mediocre is mediocre.
So instead of like a nice bell curve across like, you know, a 0 to 100 scale, you're just like 3-star ratings.
Basically.
You get a 1, 2, or 3. Like,
yeah.
okay.
To answer your question on a personal level, no, I don't think something from my favorite shows from way back are any better or any worse than my favorite shows from things that are airing or have recently aired.
Okay.
Except for, and I know you don't want to get too much into it, nostalgia. As something ages, it just gets that X factor.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of the nostalgia, we need to stop doing this, but some stuff I'll go back and rewatch and be like, oof, that was dumb. That was not good.
Right. I mean, my example with anime that may be less memorable would be Steins Gate. Because it's still a fantastic series. But when you went to Anime Expo, like one of the first things you said...
no Steins Gate stuff.
And it's because it's not relevant anymore. Like, does the relevancy of a good show like factor into the hype? Or like the memorable aspects of it, you know? Yeah, the popularity.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about just memorable at all, it's still going to be number 2 on my anime list for like ever. So, I mean, it's going to be memorable even if it's not, you know, in the spotlight right now, I guess.
Right, but like my point is there's still Evangelion and Cowboy Bebop stuff everywhere at conventions.
Is it because certain things are more timeless than others?
Timelessness may be a factor.
I think that one is just that Cowboy Bebop appeals to a wider audience. I mean, Jeremy said it last time that if you're getting into a time travel anime, there's investment there. Right. I think that the payoff is really good, but I understand somebody that doesn't want to invest in it, and I think it appeals to a shallower audience.
Right. That's a good point.
It's a great point. Nice job, Hunter.
That was the...
Let's see. So, I'm just worried that things won't remain popular. You know, we get so excited about a series. Like right now, we're super pumped about ReZero. Whether or not that ends up being a good show or not.
You think in 2020 people will be like, re what?
Just, but not even because of the way it turned out, but because there's so much stuff burying it. The content is ridiculous.
But I mean, is that necessarily bad? Wouldn't you rather have, like, if you're just going to go on, like, a scale where everything, like, now 10s are diluted because there's so many 10s, now you have to, like, all right, some of these are 9s. Like, wouldn't you just love to have a plethora of these fantastic shows? Then
I would, but the thing is, I'm worried that the good shows are just going to be harder to find. When there was less anime, it was super easy to find the best of the best. But now, there are amazing anime that people have not watched that came out just this year or last year because they're distracted with what looks good. You know? Guilty Crown was one.
I'm guilty of that.
I thought you said Guilty Crown.
I'll look at the cover and be like, ooh, pretty.
I know. I mean, and I am too, but because I watch everything, I'm able to see this. I'm able to notice that people are getting distracted by the bad shows because of the way they look, you know. They're pretty.
Pretty average. Burn.
No.
Well, I mean, to compare it to other forms of media, like, okay, so 156 came out last year. How many books were released last year?
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Like, or how many, like, films were released last year? And yet, people still find great movies from every year. Like, just because there's a plethora of them doesn't mean the greats aren't still there. And I think that while it might be harder to wade through, like, all the stuff and find the really, really good ones, they're that much better.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
Well, what I mean is if you have a really large selection, then, like, top 1 out of 1,000 is probably going to be better than top 1 out of 50. It's not necessarily definite.
Disagree almost completely.
Hit me up then. Why? I'm just saying there's a lot more chances to get that like perfect or near perfect like masterpiece level work if you're comparing 1,000
Totally.
versus 50.
And I think the reason why I disagree with that is because you're assuming that in the thousands, you're assuming within that 1,000 there is something of the same quality as when less movies were put out. And what I'm saying is when there's less stuff put out, there's more investment into that small number that is there.
So you're saying that like instead of you're talking about like a studio can choose to make 2 good movies or 10 subpar movies.
Right.
And the studios would choose
as the competition for anime, like at the end of the day it's a business for the people that are making the anime. So as your competitors continue to pump out things, people like Kyle are going to continue to watch it whether it's good or not, and they might continue to buy it whether it's good or not. So they're going to be making money regardless of whether or not their shows are good. So if suddenly I'm company A and you're company B, and you're putting out 4 things that are going to get watched, why would I waste my time to make one good show that's going to make a fourth of the money when I can also put out 4 average shows and compete with you?
I guess we're looking at it from different perspectives. You're looking at kind of like 10, this is probably more realistic because your view is like, say, 10 big studios and they choose how many things to put out. Versus
Right.
me saying you have 1,000 different people putting their heart into everything and you get like your pick of the crop.
Exactly. You're
Mine's
you're
kind of
almost,
like a romanticization, like a,
exactly.
perfect
Where you're
world.
kind of assuming that like there's going to be something good there. There are seasons where there's nothing good.
Right.
And the reason for that is because they're pumping out so much.
Sure. I mean, I guess I'll concede to that then, that with a realistic outlook on how the anime industry operates, that it's more realistic to say that by going into quantity, you sacrifice quality because of the nature of one studio pumping out multiple shows, as opposed to, 1,000 independent directors putting everything they have into one show.
Right. Which kind of leads, I don't know if you wanted to bring this into anywhere, but like independent studios or smaller, less known studios, because I don't know this answer, but how do their shows typically compare to like really big ones?
Well, smaller studios typically don't follow the conventions of the bigger ones, It's kind of like independent films versus like big movie blockbusters. Like Trigger is an example. It's newer, it's relatively small.
They're the
and
best.
I don't know if they're the best, but they make things that look pretty different than the norm, And they're typically willing to make original works compared to the majority of anime studios who just say, they go down a list and they pick the most popular visual novel or the most popular manga and say, this made money, let's turn it into an anime because
They're
we're
willing to
guaranteed
take more
money.
risk.
The cycle you were talking about is
Yeah.
different than the cycle I'm about to bring up, but do you think eventually it's going to come full 180 or 360 and go back to the way it was? Do you think companies will eventually realize that they're putting out a lot of trash and
No.
reduce?
Because the trash is making money. More money than the good stuff.
So you think that the consumers, the people that enjoy anime, the biggest fans are actually ruining anime?
They are. It's a fact.
That's depressing as
That is
fuck.
really depressing.
Yeah.
Way to go, guys.
It's because there are such hardcore fans. Like, they'll be watching Love Live and they'll say,
This is
This.
the epitome of
Is
animation, of Japanese
best thing.
animation right here.
I will buy every piece of merchandise related to the show, but specifically the character who I love from that show, my waifu.
I feel like I need to watch one episode of that.
You don't.
How about 5 minutes just to see?
Watch an opening. Yeah, watch the opening.
Watch the opening. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's answer a quick question from Turtlemanade. He says, I'd like to hear your thoughts on pirating and downloading versus streaming. Okay in certain situations, try before buy. Legal is regal, couldn't care either way. Just curious.
Pirating.
Yeah.
They're called evaluation copies, for one.
Oh, okay.
Try before buy is such bullshit. I know maybe you try before buy, but a lot of people can use that as an excuse. I want to try it. Most people who stream or pirate things don't try before buy. They just try.
Okay.
and try.
I will.
I'll go to Costco and get all the free fucking samples I can
Right.
fill my mouth with, and I'm not gonna buy a goddamn thing afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, so for me, like, I know Kyle probably has the most merchandise and DVDs of us, but the two that I have bought, like, again, my favorite two were Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Steins Gate, and I bought both of them
Expensive.
just because they were really expensive. But I thought this was so absolutely incredible that I want to support this studio and this, this group of people making more stuff like this. So that's like kind of the reason behind buying it, where it's like Cabinet of the Iron Fortress. It's like, no, I streamed that and I'm not giving you guys a dime because that stuff sucked.
Yeah, I mean, torrenting is bad. You should not steal. There are perfectly inexpensive ways to watch
Crunchyroll is
everything.
like $5
it's
or something.
It's
$8?
really reasonable. But at the same time, do whatever you need to do and whatever you think is best. I don't think you should stream because the quality is bad, Not because you're stealing from the companies, but because if an animator spends so much time and effort to work super hard on this show and then you're watching like a 480p watermarked
Kyle,
version,
Are you advocating to these people that they should buy a Crunchyroll account and then just torrent everything? Then you get your quality, but you're paying the companies.
Maybe, sure, whatever.
At the end of the day, torrenting, pirating, you can put any sort of filter you want on it. You're not supposed to do it. It
Right.
kind of screws the companies. If you like something, you should support it. That doesn't mean everyone's gonna.
We have one more anonymous question, and they ask, I noticed that you haven't mentioned your thoughts on Qualia Code, the collab with the authors behind Date Alive, Haneko, and Oragairu. Also, what do you think about the 3-episode rule?
I'm down with it.
Yeah, I love it.
I think it's pointless.
Right, me
All
too.
right, tell me why you think it's pointless.
Because you shouldn't limit yourself to saying, like, I have to watch 3 episodes to determine whether or not...
That's what he was talking about.
Yeah, no, I had no idea what that question
We
was
didn't know what the
asking.
question was. We were just like, what is he talking about? I don't know. Just say yes.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no reason to force yourself into watching the first 3 episodes of an anime in order to differentiate whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
How about the first 2?
No, I feel
I
like
think you can determine that in whatever amount of time is right for you.
it's all personal,
Yeah,
you know?
the 3-episode rule is bullshit. There's a lot of shows that I stopped watching at 1. I've never stopped watching an anime after 1 episode and gone, should have rewatched that.
Right.
But there's a lot of times I've watched 5 episodes of an anime and said, well, I just fucked 2 hours of my life.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's all very natural. If I start losing interest, I'm almost not aware of it and I just slowly stop watching the show. It's not like I have to do this. I feel like you should just kind of feel what's
I think
right or
if
wrong.
you force yourself to continue watching episodes, you're going to create an artificial happiness, or you're just going to start forcing yourself to like certain aspects of a show. Just because a show is good doesn't mean you have to like it. You can like bad shows and you can dislike good shows. So if you don't like a show after 1 episode, stop watching it. You don't need to force yourself to watch what you think other people are going to like.
But to answer the first part of your question, I did not give my opinion on Quality Code because I watched the first episode and I thought it was so bad that it wasn't even worth mentioning. I wasn't aware that it was done by these people. I didn't know it was a collaboration. When I watched it, I thought it was so otaku pandering that my mind just shut off, But I wasn't even going to watch the second episode until I read your question, knowing this information. So I did. I watched the second episode, and I still could barely even concentrate on it. It felt like a mess. I read that each of the directors are in charge of like 2 characters each. So I can totally see these 3 directors who are in charge of 2 characters each, writing all the dialogue and content like alone, and then coming together and being afraid to form a cohesive story with each other, in fear of stepping on each other's toes, and just putting everything together into one story regardless of the mess they make, just to get all this content out there. I felt like it was just terrible. And it's sad because I like some of these directors. But yeah, there were actually a good handful of shows that I didn't bring up because of that reason, which is they just weren't worth mentioning. You guys have not watched anything, correct?
You just assume I haven't watched anything?
Yeah.
I have kept up with ReZero.
I haven't watched anything.
Good. Okay. So, Orange. I think on the first episode, I said something along the lines of I didn't like the editing. I'm loving the show so far. I think we're 3 episodes in. I do feel like the editing in the first episode was for the purpose of extending. I felt like they just needed to kind of push things to be a little longer.
Do you think it's like Tatami Galaxy's first episode where everything's super, super fast? Like it's a gimmick, maybe?
Not necessarily, but that is something that I might want to consider thinking about. But the purpose of the editing, I think, is to make the viewer feel uneasy. There's a lot of intensity in the show, and although I feel like they kind of messed up on the first episode, episodes 2 and 3 have been very on edge. It's very worrisome. It's very bleak. There's so many interesting factors about the show that make me want to keep watching it. Next show is Mob Psycho. First episode, I said it was just okay, and it was, but I learned something really interesting. Studio Bones is adapting this in a completely unique way. They're going out of order. They took chapters from the manga and they're doing it in a way that they feel translates better to an anime. The original manga would not be suited for an anime adaptation the way it is currently set up, meaning there's like a lot of prologue. We don't really see like his family for a long time.
I like that though.
Yeah, they pulled things and did it in a way where the flow would be more well balanced. We have our action, we have our factors that help us associate with the main character, help him humanize him, things like that.
I like that because it says that they're not just trying to put out the show because they know it's going to be watched because of its predecessor, but they actually want to make it good.
Yeah, exactly. And they're taking a unique approach, which isn't we have to not change a single thing to be true to the format, but they're saying we know it would be better if we break it up this way. Taboo Tattoo is my guilty pleasure.
Everyone needs one.
It reminds me so much of Bleach. The main the main girl reminds me of Rukia, and I just love that character type. Kind of this aggressive, much more powerful woman compared to the main male protagonist. I just like that kind of bossy. She's cool. I like her. But it's nothing special. I just find it enjoyable. Amamatu Inazuma is becoming one of my favorites. It's very, very sweet, very just pure and innocent and unbelievably cute, I love so much about it. The relationship between the father and daughter is just really heartwarming. I'm a little disappointed with Hanada-kun. I have not talked about that yet, but it's the prequel to Barakamon. It's a spin-off, basically. I don't find it particularly funny, but it's watchable. It's also passing that threshold of like I can tolerate it, but it's still nothing special. I talked about New Game. I said last week that it's probably not like one of your must-watches of the season, but it's really cute. There's a really cute moment in the newest episode where the main character was working on like a character design she's doing, and she's like asked her boss to come check it, and there was no dialogue, and the boss kind of looked at it, and that scene hung for a little bit longer than usual, and it was just kind of touching to see the meaning behind that scene without any words, and it just meant a lot. And maybe it's because like I work in a similar field, and I kind of wish I had a job with that kind of atmosphere. I'd love to be super passionate about my work and things like that, and I love to work in a work environment with like 5 other cute anime girls, but it's just not happening.
Go to Japan.
Yeah? Are the anime girls working in
Maid cafes?
Yeah, sure. Days is the soccer anime. It does have a little bit of that Fujoshi vibe. There are a lot of qualities about the main two characters that I don't particularly love.
Is this the one that's similar to Free?
I think I made that comparison, or I think you brought it up last
like
time.
a reverse ecchi. I don't even know how to describe
Reverse harem. No, but it's entertaining. I mean, it's like a bad Yowamushi pedal in terms of the...
So how does it compare to Everybody's the Same Character Archetype baseball anime?
This is the soccer one. Oh, how does it compare to Battery?
Sure.
Days is a little bit more engaging, and a little bit more exciting, like a typical shonen, but Battery takes itself too seriously. I'm loving Amanchu. That's the scuba diving one with the two girls.
The lesbian scuba divers?
Yes, but like I said, it's so much more than that. The atmosphere.
Are they lesbians?
I hope so.
Are they scuba divers?
They are scuba divers, and they might be lesbians. I really hope it is actually a romance. I don't want the studio to just kind of pull off this ambiguous, they kind of like each other thing. I really want it to be romantic. Everything about it, the music, the soundtrack, the atmosphere, the entire vibe of the show, the color palette, it's so soothing and innocent and honest. It's so beautiful. It's just a beautiful show, and I want it to be worthwhile. The new season of Fate has a lot less fan service than I thought it would. There has not been...
Fate has never been something that exemplifies fan service to me, though.
This is the spin-off with the little girls.
I mean, it was made off of it was based off
like a doujin or something.
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, I don't think there has been a single scene of little girls kissing yet. And then we're 3 episodes in, which is a good thing, you know?
So are you like crossing your fingers?
I don't know. Yes and no. Legally, no.
Got it. Okay. Good answer.
I didn't talk about Saiki Kusuo, the psychic one. It's the pink-haired psychic boy. In terms of a comedy, it's not like laugh out loud. It's just barely enjoyable.
Whenever you use the word barely to describe anything, you always know it's not of the quality you want it to be.
Right, but at the same time, I don't dislike shows that are just average because A, you won't be disappointed, you know, and B, they're super easy to turn on and just kind of mindlessly enjoy.
Okay, my question to you. Now, the reason I don't get into the new season as much as you do is because I like to take a day and just finish the whole thing at once.
Yeah.
So it really, watching ReZero is painful to me because I like it so much, but I have to keep coming back.
That's great.
And I would much rather have not known ReZero existed and gone through all 24 episodes in 2 days.
Right.
But if you were to be watching one now, from what I gathered you talking about, the 3 that you would maybe recommend to me and Sam would be like Mob Psycho, maybe 91 Days, and Anamanaguchi or whatever it's called.
Anamanaguchi, I love that band. Definitely the first 2. I don't know if you would like
Amaguchi. I'm just out of the 3 that you kind of gave
about.
the highest praise.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the 3. So do you think it's just the 2, the Mob Psycho and 91, or what about Taboo Tattoo?
I don't think you might enjoy it, but you're gonna end up being disappointed. You know, ultimately. I would, if you want to watch 3, I would probably suggest catching up with Shokugeki and then starting the 2nd season.
Okay.
So we don't have any new reviews this week. We don't have too many comments. We do have someone, Iced Coffee on SoundCloud, said awesome podcast, and that's all that matters. You know, positive comments, positive feedback. Please giving us more feedback.
Please giving us.
I noticed that when I get drunk, I mess up on my tenses.
That's the only thing. Then you're doing good.
Well, that's one of the many things.
You need to be drunker. We need a LA special part 2.
Well, let's just call it. I don't know. We don't need to go to LA to get super drunk. We'll have a drunk episode.
What else do you do in LA?
I don't know. If you have any other feedback, if you have suggestions, topics, anything that you just want to hear from us, new ideas about how the format of the show should go, let us know. We're more than willing to cater to what you guys want. You can send us questions on Twitter at theweeabooze. We're also on Gmail at theweeabooze@gmail.com. And you can send me questions at Secret Otaku on Tumblr. We like to get the word out, so please reblog. That helps a lot with the amount of views and listeners we get. So that, more than anything, really helps. And if you want to, please give us an iTunes review. We want to thank Hentai Dude for our intro music and Kid Boo for our outro music. So, how do we do this without Jeremy?
You have to say 2 words. Go.
Get drunk.
What? That's not what I expected.
Perfect.
Get
Drunk.
And
anime. See you guys next week.
Peace.
You can catch me smoking a sour off the coast of Okinawa. Feeling so high like I'm Ho-Oh in that tower. Take a flight on some shit. Got my dogs riding beside me, blazing hot. That's kamikaze. Sacred fire, don't be mad, I'm lit. Catch me smoking a sour off the coast of Okinawa. Feeling so high like I'm Ho-Oh in that tower. Take a flight on some shit. Got my dogs riding beside me, blazing hot. That's kamikaze. Sacred fire, don't be mad, I'm lit.
This is so unrelated. It's not even like
Go
whatever.
for it.
But what you were just saying reminded me of it. It was like a scene that I noticed in Akira, but I didn't realize why I noticed it.
We watched Akira tonight.
Yeah, I didn't realize why I noticed it until now. This has nothing to do with the podcast.
Right.
But there was a scene. There's like this rule in filmmaking, and I only know this because in high school I took like a filmmaking class. TV productions, Wade Fadness, great teacher. And like there's this like axis rule where if you're filming a character from this side, you want to keep filming them from this side, and if they're looking this way, you want to keep filming them looking this way.
We learned that in Paprika.
Yeah.
you can't cross the axis, and they specifically, while talking about it, did it in
yeah.
the paprika
Oh,
scene.
yeah, so they explained it there.
Right.
In Akira, there's a scene where he's in like the hospital bed and he's first going crazy for the first time or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they film him from his left looking forward, and then he like kind of rotates and they suddenly break the axis. Mm-hmm. And it's almost a drawing, but it's a very clean edit. And they're suddenly filming him from the other side, which is a huge, you can't do that if you're in a closed room, and he's looking down.
Yeah.
And it's super weird. And that's like the turning moment where it crosses the axis, but a switch goes off in his head.
Right, and I feel like that's the exact midpoint of the film.
Yeah, and I didn't think about that till just now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a good movie.
The hospital scene was the best.
All right. Anyways, back to the podcast.